So what I'm going to discuss with you is something not surgical, not medical, but something diagnostic, like about the oral fundus fluorescein angiography. So fluorescein angiography as such has been in vogue for about 60 years now, and use of fluorescein dye has been used to study the vascularity of retina for such a long time. And different lesions are diagnosed on the basis of fluorescein angiography. But FFA has its limitation, and the biggest limitation is the fear of injection in the mind of the patient. And this fear is not entirely without foundation, because fluorescein can lead to some kind of complications. About 7 to 10% patients have nausea or vomiting during the procedure, and 2 to 3% may have allergy to the dye. And it may also become severe, go up to bronchospasm or anaphylaxis in some of these cases. And many of the patients we see in our OPD land up with the vasovagal syncope while we are doing the fluorescein angiography. So fluorescein angiography definitely is invasive, and for that, to overcome that, people started doing OCT angiography, which was again a very good tool. And it has its own advantages, like it was a three-dimensional approach. You can see the blood vessels in different planes. It was a static approach. It was thought to be better for research purposes. But the main advantage was that it was totally non-invasive and it has no side effects, no fear of injection. But again, OCT angiography had its limitations. It can pick only blood flow. So vascular lesions which don't have any blood flow, like microaneurysms, were not picked. It was not dynamic, so there was no so the leakage, pooling, and staining characteristics of a lesion were missed. Example in CSR, and OCT angiography has a small window of examination ranging from 10 to 14 millimeters now. Only studying, so even studying whole or even a small part of retina was very cumbersome, and it was very difficult to use in uncooperative patients or in patients who were unable to maintain fixation. Oral fluorescein angiography is not a new thing. It was first used in 1979, but the picture quality was on analog fundus cameras were not very good. Subsequently, with the advent of CSLOs, the picture quality did improve, and so we used the oral fluorescein angiography using a broadline imaging with an ultra wide field camera, and we did 445 eyes of 236 patients. What we did was we used 25 milligrams per kilogram body weight of fluorescein, which was dissolved in 30 milliliters of sugar-free juice. The patient was asked to ingest it, and then it was followed by another 30 milliliters of juice without the dye. So, and then the angiograms were taken at regular interval, every minute for first 5 minutes, followed by every 2 minutes for 5 to 10 minutes, followed by every 5 minutes to up to 30 minutes. And just to show that all the characteristics and all the types of diseases we were able to pick for diabetic retinopathy. You can see this is the oral fluorescein angiogram. You were able to pick up the microaneurysms, and which showed leakage in the late phases, and we could delineate them to do focal laser treatment in this patient. And you can differentiate focal leaks from a diffuse leakage from the capillary bed with this oral fluorescein angiography. Again, ischemic macula is another feature that we would like to look for in a diabetic retinopathy patient, which can be easily picked up by oral fluorescein angiography, though it can be easily also picked up with the OCTA. With capillary non-perfusion, again, this is a PDR patient. Though it does not add to the management part, but still you can see that the capillary non-perfusion can also be easily highlighted using an oral fluorescein angiography. In fact, in patient who had a severe non-proliferative diabetic retinopathy, doing an oral fluorescein angiography changed the management, because there was such a severe amount of capillary non-perfusion. We opted for a laser pan photocoagulation in this patient. This could not have been picked up by an OCTA until and unless we did a fluorescein angiogram. So with this oral fluorescein angiography, we were able to change the management of this patient. Again, another patient with a subtle new vascularization You can see the true extent of disease is much more than what is highlighted on the fundus pictures and what is highlighted on the clinical examinations. So fluorescein angiography in this patient helped us in changing the management of this patient also. Again, subtle NVDs can be picked only by the fluorescein angiography, and oral fluorescein angiography was also able to pick up these types of lesions. Again, this was not a very subtle NVD, but the NVD, you can see what you see on a fundus picture is not the real true picture, but what you get on a fluorescein angiography gives you a better idea what is there in the eye. Again, for a patient with the asteroid hallosis, you can't do a OCT angiography. You have to do a fluorescein angiography, and oral fluorescein angiogram again graphy was again able to pick up what lies behind this. Because of its wide field nature, in this broadline imaging, we were able to pick up the leakage of the dye beyond what we normally see in a normal fundus camera, or much beyond what we can see in an OCT angiography. Again, for a post-PRP patient, you can see you can go wide and do an oral fluorescein angiogram. You can get a true picture of what is right there. So in patients with central serous choroidal retinopathy, again, the oral fluorescein angiography will hold an advantage over OCTA in the detection of hotspot. You can see this patient had CSR, and you see the images starting at about 10 minutes of time. You can see a pinpoint leak which increased to a smokestack appearance in the later phases. And even oral fluorescein angiography, which was earlier meant to say that you can't pick up early phases, was able to detect this dynamic change happening in the CSR. Again, another patient, you can see the ink blot type of leakage happening in CSR. Another patient of CSR with a downward smokestack appearance was picked up easily by the oral fluorescein angiogram. In exudative AMD classic CNVM, one thing that OCT angiography has changed the management is in the exudative AMD group, and definitely OCTA is very helpful in this type of diseases. But if you see oral fluorescein angiography, if you compare it with the IVFA, the oral fluorescein angiography is good enough to pick up classic CNVMs. You can see the increase in intensity and increase in size of the hyperfluorescence as the time progresses. Another case of classic CNVM, you can see a classic picture of a hyperfluorescence surrounded by a ring of hypofluorescence. This was done with the oral angiogram only, and you can see a late leakage from this CNVM. Again, for retinal macroaneurysms, also you can pick up these type of lesions which could not be picked up on OCTA. For vascular occlusions like capillary, you can pick up capillary non-perfusion, neovascularization, and macular status. So I'll just run through them. This is a patient of CRVO in both eyes. One eye had a ischemic CRVO, one eye had a non-ischemic CRVO, and you can pick up the non-perfusion as well as the macular status in this patient. So in BRVO also, you can pick up the amount of non-perfusion with oral fluorescein angiogram only. You don't have to resort to the IV FA, and you can decide on the management of these types of patients. The retinal artery occlusion, again, you can see the cattle tracking of vessels here. You can pick up the BRAOs very easily, even on oral fluorescein angiography. You don't need to go for a IV angiography. Again, another patient with the cattle tracking of the vessel. So for pediatric patients, again, this is easier because pediatric patients generally risk intravenous injections. It is well tolerated, and you can pick up. This was a patient of Coats disease, and this was a patient of fever. You can easily give them oral fluorescein dye and do a angiography. Again, uveitis, another advantage of fluorescein over OCTA is in uveitis, where you need to do a dynamic angiography, and you can see you can pick up early hyperfluorescence, which was followed by late hyperfluorescence in this serpiginous choroiditis patient, and in this APMP PE patients, you can see there was an early hypofluorescence followed by late hypofluorescence. Again, for vasculitis, you can pick up non-perfusion areas, you can pick up NVEs easily in the periphery, which can't be picked up with the OCTA. So we got almost good quality images on almost 99% of the eyes, and the incidence of complications was very less as compared to the IVFFA. But there are some limitations. It is not advisable in very heavy patients, or patients with history of recent meal will not give you good images, or patients with significant. Advantages are it is safer, less invasive, comfortable, faster preparation of patient. It's a dynamic angiography. In pediatric patients, it's easier. In patients in IV is contraindicated. It is reproducible. Again, you can do it recurrent. Patients are generally accepted. Multiple procedures can be done simultaneously and can be performed by a technician. Only disadvantage is longer duration, but you can again do many patients at the same time. And it's difficult to see arterial and choroidal phases with oral fluorescent angiography. So in the end, I would like to say that OFA is a safe, less invasive and tolerated procedure and gives you good quality images in almost 99% of